this is going to be way different. This is not the fastest way on the back of the plow point. Welcome to my channel, folks. Finally together again. Today we are gonna talk about shelters and everything related. Knots, ridge lines, and my 3 favorite configurations. How to set up your shelter fast, what knots are realistically useful to set up your shelter that will also help you to disappear fast without leaving anything behind. As I already said, being fast in setting up your camp and dismount it and disappear fast can be really important during an SHTF scenario. Mostly where there's gonna be a transition between the urban environment and the natural one, where we might take shelter and then move along the way and go back into the urban environment, etc. By the way, due to also all the requests that I've received lately, I'm gonna make a proper video about sheltering in a urban environment in case of SHTF and everything related to this subject, because the approach is going to be way different. Now let's dive in today's video. First, tent or tarps. In general, I tend to use tents when I find myself over the tree line where there's no protection and the weather can be unpredictable and harsh, and a strong wind could create some issues with the tarp, such as when I find myself in the mountains or in places where there's no trees. I rarely use tents when I go into the forest. If I do it, it's because I'm there for work and I have a lot of gear and I want to keep all the gear protected. For the most part, if I don't find myself in these precise cases, I use tarps. To me, they are way better than tents. They are more multifunctional. You can mold them according to your needs. And when I use tarps, I feel more connected to nature. I have several 3x3 tarps, but I honestly would like to get a smaller one, maybe a 2x2, but it's really hard to find it in my country. Rectangular tarps are not my favorites. I have one for emergency, a small one that I keep in my core pack, so they're good. I use them, but I tend to prefer square tarps in general. Another option that I mostly use for emergency are poncho tarps, because it's more multifunctional. I have 2 things in one. Yeah, the space is gonna be smaller under the poncho tarp, but for emergency, it's perfect to me. Second, a pre-made ridge line. Having a pre-made ridge line in your kit really speed up the process of making your shelter. I tend to have one inside of each pack I have. To make a pre-made ridge line, you need some bank line, some paracord, and you have to know 4 knots. Bowline knots, tracker's hitch, prusik knots, and double fisherman bands. Here's how to make a bowline knot. Make a loop on your running line. Now take the free end line, go up through the loop, then back on the standing line, and then back down through the loop. Bowline knot is one of the most important knots you can know. It has the virtues of being easy to tie and untie even after being subjected to a load. It can also be used for rescuing people, tying the rope around their torso without risking that their weight will make the rope squeeze their torso during the rescue procedure. When you made the bowline knot, wrap the ridge line around your anchor point and use a stick as a toggle to block the ridge line. Tracker's hitch is a compound knot used for securing loads on trucks and trailers. After I went around the tree, I grabbed my line, rotated it over, laid it down, and I will pull it towards the tree, and that gives me the loop I need. Now I take my other end and I pass it through the loop twice, creating a fiction knot that is going to keep my ridge line tight. To secure the ridge line, just make an F hitch just for safety. As you can see, both knots has a quick release capability that will be great in case of emergency. Double fisherman's bend. Take one end and go around twice. Make sure it coils backward over itself. Thread your rope through both of them and pull the tighten. Follow the same step for the other end of the rope. To check if you done it correctly, you should have an X shape on one side and a parallel shape on the other one. Prusik knot. Wrap the loop we're already creating using the double fisherman's bands around the main line, and then through the loop itself, creating what someone calls the girth hitch. Now we follow up with a second wrap exactly like the first one, and you can do a third wrap if you wish. Personally, I don't find it necessary unless you are about to climb something. Last but not least, make sure that the knot is slightly off-centered. Here how the end of the pre-made ridge line will look like when it's done. To store your ridge line and make it ready to use, drop the cord between two fingers. Keep winding it around in figure 8 way, around your thumb and your pinky fingers, just like this. When you have some tail left, pull the bandle off. Point the tail and the bowline knot and the Prusik loops on the bottom. And wrap up and away from that and make a quick half hitch to secure it. Doing so, the rope will never tangle up when you deploy it. Another alternative for your ridge line is, instead of the tracker hitch and the bowline knot, you can use the mooring hitch and the pheromone friction hitch. The Prusik knot side of things will remain the same. I'll show you. Here's how to make a mooring hitch. Pass the rope behind and over the tree or the branch you want to use. With the tail, form a loop so that the tail touches the standing hand. Pass a bite of the tail across the loop and under the standing hand and tighten to take the load. Both are quick release knots. Definitely a plus if we need to disappear quickly. If you pull the tail, the knot will come undone in a second. Now the pheromone friction hitch. Starting by wrapping around the tree and create an underhand loop on our running line. The loop needs to go underneath itself. Slide the loop under our main line and we are gonna wrap around the main line twice. And now we simply feed the bite, which is a loop made with our running hand, through the loop and pull. I wanted to show you the mooring hitch and the pheromone friction hitch to make your ridge line, because I wanted to give you an alternative and share more knowledge. But to me, when you made your pre-made ridge line with the bowline knot and you know how to tie a trackers hitch and you already have 2 or 3 or 4 Prusik attached to your main ridge line, you're good to go. I think the quick deploy pre-made ridge line, it's the best thing you can have on your kit. These are all the pieces that I mostly use lately. This one is an emergency blanket. It can be used also as a tarp, but I mostly use it to sleep on. In alternative, I use a a very cheap, but I think it works well, ground tarp from Nature Hike. I bought it on Amazon 3 years ago. Of course, my Carinthia Pro Poncho tarp, the one that I keep in my bug-in bag or bug-out bag, wherever you call it. Yes, it's expensive, but I think it's gonna last for a very long time. My Pathfinder tarp, it's about 8 by 8, and this rectangular tarp that I keep in my core pack, of course I'm not carrying them all, and I just tend to switch to one to another according to what kind of activity and scenario I'm going through. Now it's time to show you my 3 favorite tarps configurations that I use it all the time. This is the type of configuration that I usually call alpha tent. It's a very low profile shelter, good for at least one person and my backpack. I mostly use it when I want to keep my profile low during my stealth campings, etc. and when I don't light fires nearby where I'm gonna sleep. It's also a very easy configuration, pretty simple. 5 tent stakes, 2 on each side and 1 on the back, and 2 prusik knots that I usually attach the first loop on the front and the one in the middle, just to create a bit more room beneath the tarp. This is the second of the 3 of my favorite tarp configurations. It's called plow point, everyone knows it. There's plenty of room, not very low profile, but you have a better vision of your surrounding. Plus you can place, if you need, a small fire in front of your shelter. I've used the bone line knot with a toggle and the rope wrapper around the tree here, and I've used the tracker hitch on the back of the plow point. Since I wanted to create more space inside of the plow point, I've used the same ridge line because it was longer than I needed to tie up the middle loop to create more space inside the shelter. So I made the tracker hitch, I came back, I went up over the branch on the top of the plow point, and I've used the pheromone friction hitch to give attention to the vertical line. Last but not least, lean-to, the evergreen. I think it's one of the first tarp configuration we tend to learn. The alpha tent is going to be my favorite ever. When I take my time in the forest easier, this type of shelter come in handy. Mostly during summer season, you have more airflow that goes in and goes out. I've used this kind of configuration during my 15-day solo trip in Sweden. A lean-to made in this way takes more time to dismount it and run away because we have more attachment points. 2 tent pegs on the back, 2 toggles attached those prusik knots. We have 2 other cords attached with 2 other tent pegs on the front. 4 tent pegs, 2 toggles, and the ridge line. So this is not the fastest way. If you want something fast, stick to the alpha tent. That for me is the best, or the plow point, or just make the classic lean-to. Maybe keep it lower. Here's is just a small example of test I do from time to time to see how much it's gonna take me to leave the campsite fast. I want to be precise. 100% of the times the shelters is complete, which means tarp, ground tarp, and maybe a sleeping bag if it's needed. I honestly never go back to sleep with stuff around. I got used to put everything back in the pack before to sleep, so if something happened, I only need to take care about the shelter and maybe my knife. That is most of the time still on my belt. During winter, the sleeping system is bulkier, which means the pack is emptier. So I just need to stuff things up into the pack as quickly as I can. The only pain in the butt are the inflatable system mattresses. In that case, I leave it last, roll it over itself, grab the pack, and I will deflate it along the way. I felt rusted, but maybe the flu was affecting me, but in reality, if something bad happened, we might not be at 100%. And we need to act fast and efficiently anyway. Lesson learned. this video, I've tried to share with you some knowledge about essential knots that at least are essential to me, and a tarp configuration that really works most of the time, and that can help you to keep yourself protected and be fast and don't get busted during an SHTF scenario. It wasn't definitely about epic camping. I don't have anything against it, and I really love to spend time laying under the tarp, reading a book with my family, by myself, listening to music. But lately things are too messy around the world. And for me, it's really important to share as much as I can with all of you, and you are doing it with me. So it's great to keep sharing knowledge together. I truly hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you in another one. Be prepared. These are all the pieces. Okay. I wanted to show you the mooring hitch and the pheromone friction X. Ah! Cazzo, sono italiano, è difficilissimo. Ok.